Hello everyone, welcome to Lit Studio. I'm Karishma. So today we are going to talk about different poetical types. All right, there are different forms of poetry that we have to learn to understand what are the purposes and why they are written. All right, so let's just get into the video. So now we see that there are many types of poetry, and these can be grouped into three main genres. They are the narrative poetry, dramatic poetry, and lyric poetry. All right. So now, when you understand the name of the poetry, we understand what is its purpose, right? The narrative poetry, what does it say? It talks about a narrative. So it talks about a story, it tells a story. Dramatic poetry. So we read dramatic poetry just for the dramatic effect it presents, right? So dramatic poetry is used in plays with dramatic action. And then there is lyric poetry. Lyric means there is music to it. So lyric poetry expresses a person's state of mind or attitude. All right. Now that we've read about all the three important types of poetry, let's understand what are the different kinds of poetry that are already existing in these types of poetry. All right, so the narrative poetry has different kinds of poetry, and dramatic poetry has different kinds of poetry, and lyric poetry as well. So now let's see what is narrative poetry. Narrative poetry tells stories through verse. All right, so verse means poetry. We choose the form of poetry to tell a story. That is called narrative poetry. Like a novel or a short story, a narrative poem has plot, characters, and setting. Using a range of poetic techniques such as rhyme and meter, narrative poetry presents a series of events, often including action, dialogue, and in most cases, narrative poems have only one speaker. All right, the narrator who relates the entire story from the beginning to the end. So, what does it mean? The narrative poetry, it tells a story. All right, so it has character, plot, setting, all the things that are in a story, that are in a novel or any form of story, are present inside the narrative poetry. All right, so narrative poetry also has a narrator. The narrator is the one who narrates the story through the form of verse. All right, so in the narrative poetry, there is a series of events that is presented throughout the poem. All right, so there is action and there is dialogue in the poetry. All right. The traditional forms of narrative poetry include epics, ballads, and Arthurian romances. So, any of the epic and any of the ballads that you've known are all forms of narrative poetry. All right. When you see any ballad or epic, there is always a story. There is always some of the characters involved. There is always rhyme and meter to it. There is always a plot and action in it. Right. So, that is what narrative poetry is. So now we've understood what narrative poetry is. Now let's get into the types of narrative poetry that existed. The epic, the ballad, and the idyll. Alright. Now first look at the epic. The epic is a long narrative poem. So if you think about any of the epics in English literature, what is the epic that you think about? Uh, for example, a well-known epic would be Paradise Lost by John Milton. Any student of English literature needs no introduction to this particular epic poem by John Milton, right? So if you observe the characteristics present in the Paradise Lost, those are the characteristics that must be present in any of the epic poems or any of the narrative poems per se. All right? So, epic is a long narrative poem. It usually is very lengthy. That usually recounts the stories of heroism. All right. The protagonists of epic poems are often kings, knights, and heroes, or else extraordinary people who change the fate of history. Define people's nationality. The Mahabharata, for example, tells a story of two groups of cousins fighting against each other to determine the successors of Hastinapur throne in ancient India. Interwoven through this story are tales of morality, national identity, and the gods, culminating in a sprawling epic which to this day influences certain aspects of Indian culture. So, for example, when we observe the epic of any country, it resembles the culture of that particular country. Okay, so it also, through the story, represents the ideas and ideology of the people present in the culture. All right, the Mahabharata that we've talked about, when we see the stories present in the Mahabharata, it does not only say the story but also produces this tales of morality and the national identity. So it also gets some supernatural elements like gods and superhuman powers involved throughout the story. Even if you observe Paradise Lost, we see gods, we see angels, we see Satan, who is a fallen angel, and we see the fate of him as he and his troop rebelled against God. More recently, the story of Beowulf doesn't contribute quite so much to England's nationalism, but it does offer a window into the language, culture, and the ideologies of Middle Ages. If you read Beowulf, or if you read about the story of Beowulf, we know that there is this warrior who is Beowulf, and he goes on extraordinary fights, and he fights some extraordinary demons, or he fights and protects his people, and he is very courageous. We know that these were the ideas of the people of Middle Ages. So that is how you represent the ethics and morals of the people through the story. So that is one of the reasons why people use narratives poems to say the story. There are few epics in today's literary landscape, partially because the epic poem fulfilled cultural needs of the past that aren't germane to the contemporary society. Examples of epic poetry include the Mahabharata, Beowulf, the Aeneid, the Odyssey, the Epic of Gilgamesh, among many others. So now that we've done with the discussion about the epic poetry, let's move on to the ballads. Among narrative poems, the ballad is more modern than most forms, though it's evolved quite a bit over several centuries. Originating in Europe, likely England, the late Middle Ages, ballads were narrative poems set to music intended to accompany dances and entertain large audience. All right. So when we observe any ballads, when we listen to any ballads, you tend to move along or groove to the music of the ballads. So earlier times, ballad was actually used to improve the productivity when you work. So what ballad is used to do, we used to work and sing ballads so that our spirits would be high. So that is what ballads are first evolved, and then it spread. Similar to epics, the narratives in ballads were about extraordinary individuals such as Robin Hood. Much later, in the 19th century, the ballad form was adopted by Romantic and Victorian era poets who admired the folksy and literary attributes of ballad poetry. Because this evolution spans centuries, the meter and topicality of ballad poetry varies, but most ballads were intended to tell stories and also to entertain. Both to entertain and also to tell stories, ballads are used. Ballads aren't nearly as popular in the 21st century, but some great 19th century ballads include The Rime of Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, the Ballad of Reading Gaol by Oscar Wilde. So you should remember The Rime of Ancient Mariner by Samuel Taylor Coleridge is actually a ballad. Now let's move on to the idyll. The word idyllic describes reminiscent of rural and pastoral life. Idyll poems, thus, are narrative poems which celebrate, describe, and explore the rustic life. The rustic life. Idyllic poetry is typically short, but it still builds a narrative. And often a group of idylls will be strung together to form a larger story. For example, 12 idylls together form Tennyson's Idylls of the King, which retells the story of King Arthur, his love for Genevieve, and the story of his kingdom. All right. So now, in poetry, there are three types of poetry. There are narrative poetry, dramatic poetry, and also lyric poetry. And then, in narrative poetry, there is three types of poetry. Those are the epic poetry, the ballads, and the idylls. All right. Now let's move on to the dramatic poetry. What is dramatic poetry? Dramatic poetry is a form of poetic composition that is written in a dramatic form consisting of dialogue between characters, monologues, and soliloquies conveying a story or idea through dramatic action rather than descriptive or narrative exposition. When you use the technique of description or narrative to tell a story in the form of verse, it would become a narrative poetry. But you use the poetic composition in a different form, that is, in a dramatic form, right? And then there would be a dialogue between the characters, or there might be monologues, or there might even be soliloquies, which would give the dramatic effect to the poetry. So now, in this form, we know that there are three different types of dramatic poetry. Those are monologues, soliloquies, and dramatic action. This form of poetry originated from ancient Greece, where it was often used in theatrical performances. So, drama used in theaters and dramatic poetry is also used in theatrical performances and religious festivals to tell the stories of gods and heroes. It was also used by Shakespeare in his plays such as Romeo and Juliet, where the characters express their emotions and convey the plot through the poetic language. So, when the characters they use the poetic language and produce the dramatic effect in the drama, it would be a dramatic poetry. Dramatic poetry usually appears in four types. The first is soliloquy, where a character muses to themselves about something troubling them. A very well-known soliloquy would be "to be or not to be" by Hamlet, in the play Hamlet by Shakespeare. The second is dramatic monologue, in which a character addresses something else but reveals something about themselves in the process. The third type of dramatic poetry is called sketch, where the playwright invites the audience to form an opinion on the character delivering their lines. The fourth type of dramatic poetry is called dialogue between at least two of the characters. The first two are very important. Soliloquy is when the character thinks in himself but is said out loud for the audience. So when the character is thinking of something that is troubling him and saying it out loud for the audience to hear would be a soliloquy. And a dramatic monologue is where a character addresses something else but reveals something about themselves in the process. So a vital component of dramatic poetry is its use of meter and rhyme, which helps to create a rhythmic and musical effect, enhancing the emotional impact of the words. So that is what a dramatic poetry is all about. It should impact or enhance the dramatic effect to the poem. Additionally, it requires a mastery of language and a deep understanding of human emotions and motivations to effectively convey the characters and their actions. Now, we've done with the narrative poetry and dramatic poetry. Let's jump on to the lyric poetry. Lyric poetry refers to a short poem, often with song-like qualities, that expresses the speaker's personal emotions and feelings. Historically intended to be sung and accompanied with the musical instrumentation, lyric now describes a broad category of non-narrative poetry, including elegies, odes, and sonnets. Elegies, odes, and sonnets are different kinds of lyrical poems. Alright, so lyrical poetry is often very short and it has song-like qualities in it. Through lyrical poetry, the poet expresses his emotions and feelings. But it's not narrative, it doesn't have a plot. It doesn't have a character or any of the features that actually tells a story. So it is historically said to be accompanied with a instrument. The lyric poetry began as a fixture of ancient Greece, classified against other categories of poetry at the time of classical antiquity. Dramas written in verse and epic poems. The lyric was far shorter, distinguished also by its focus on the poet's state of mind and personal themes rather than narrative arc. So, through the lyric poetry, the poet expresses his feelings and emotions. So, it talks about the state of mind the poet is actually in. And also, it deals with personal themes, most typically accompanying the lyre, a harp-like instrument from which the word lyric poetry derives its name. These poems would also be sung to other instruments and other times recited. Lyric poetry appears in a variety of forms, the most popular of which is arguably the sonnet. We've talked about different types of lyric poetry like the sonnet, elegy, and odes. So, sonnet is traditionally a 14-line poem written in iambic pentameter. Sir Thomas Wyatt, of course, William Shakespeare. So Thomas Wyatt is the one who discovered, who invented the lyric poetry, and William Shakespeare popularized this classical form for which English audience are grateful for. William Wordsworth's The World is Too Much With Us is a great example of sonnet and adapted at the time of 19th century. If you see any elegy, it is a lamentation, a poem of mourning. Elegies are written in mourning of someone, all right? And then there is ode. The ode is a formal address to an event, a person, or a thing that is not present, is another common branch of lyric poetry. There are three types of odes: the Pindaric ode, the Horatian ode, and the irregular ode. All right. Percy Shelley's The Ode to West Wind is a great example of Pindaric and one of the most celebrated odes of English language. Ode to the West Wind. All right. Other famous examples of lyric poems include Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's My Lost Youth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge's Ode to Dejection, and there are quite famous odes by John Keats as well. If you know any of his odes, please make sure to mention them in the comment section. So that's all there is to know about lyric poetry. So we've talked about all the three kinds of poetry. Those are the narrative poetry, dramatic poetry, and lyric poetry. And we've also discussed different kinds of poetic forms that are presented in these broader types of poetry. All right. So that's it for this lecture. I hope you understand everything. Also make sure to comment on all the important